Dziękuję, Mr. Ogash. Dziękuję, Professor Smershik. Dziękuję, University of Economics in Katowice. I just spent 50% of my Polish vocabulary. Thank you for listening to me again. I want to talk about corporate social responsibility, CSR. Everyone knows how to spell CSR now, right? But what is the ultimate CSR, okay? It's ultimately very important for the very university in which we are in, University of Economics in Katowice, because we are dealing with economics and business issues. So I'm not going to bore you with details of lots of books, but I do want to share with you two of my newest books, one of which was presented to your university 2 days ago. Without further ado, I will run a case study. That is the opening case study of my Global Business 5th edition. And this is a wonderful and scary and terrifying and beautiful case study, depending on your point of view, okay? It is about Apple, America, and China. I believe some of us have Apple products in our pockets, right? And the guy in the middle is Tim Cook. And before that, there was one CEO, Steve Jobs, who unfortunately passed away, all right? So the question that Tim Cook was dealing with President Trump, why couldn't Apple make the iPhone in the United States? Actually, it was not the first US president who ever raised that question. Ever since President George W. Bush, the little Bush, and then there's President Obama, okay? Every Apple CEO was confronted by this question, and Steve Jobs was totally non-diplomatic. He said, forget it. We just cannot make iPhones in the United States because take a look at our job labor force. They're not well prepared at the price we're willing to pay in terms of their wages. So Steve Jobs, being very undiplomatic, got himself too much stress. So he passed away because of cancer. Now we have Mr. Tim Cook. So again, 30 years from now, some of you may become a future Tim Cook. I really want you to position yourself in the shoes of such executives. You may not be as successful, but you could be today, imagine, you could be the CEO of a Polish company who have spent your life cultivating your business in Russia. Are you going to withdraw or not? Same question, okay? I'm not going to raise any answers, but I just want to run my case studies, okay? This is a very hard question, and guess what? This very company whose products some of us are having in the last 5 years made so much money. Never before had a company made so much money in the history of humankind. $1 trillion in market capitalization in such a bad environment in which the United States and China are butting heads. And that's something. That's unusual, right? So how could Apple do it? Many different reasons, but I'll just use 2 words, play ball. Play ball. What do I mean by play ball? You know basketball primarily, right? You don't drop the ball, okay? You play both sides. You make both sides happy. And Apple, in the process of doing that, made lots of money. And Apple managers, employees worldwide keep their jobs making lots of money. Okay, that's awesome. But that is what I argue the ultimate corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is about corporations being environmentally friendly, doing more recycling of water, shutting off lights after we get off, promoting women and minority rights, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI goals, all of which is wonderful, okay? But I would argue the ultimate corporate responsibility from a social standpoint is to do their business well in multiple countries, literally holding hands of President Trump and President Xi, and today, you know what? Tim Cook is holding hands with President Xi and President Biden, and lots of other presidents in the world. Because if Tim Cook and Apple did not do this, the hotheads in Washington, D.C. and Beijing might want to butt heads even harder, harsher, more aggressively, more dangerously. So the ultimate corporate social responsibility I want to argue is to promote and preserve world peace, in addition to the usual stuff that corporations are doing, okay? So this is the standard definition from a paper in 1973. In my newest book, I just lifted that definition verbatim. For those of you who are not familiar with this literature, it's a boring but long definition of consideration of and response to issues beyond the narrow economic, technical, and legal requirements of the firm to accomplish social benefits along with the traditional economic gains that the firm seeks. So look at the two persons struggling, okay? Performance is always going to be a struggle. There are different factions within the company, different factions in the society that would want you to perform for one dimension, and then you end up sacrificing other performance dimensions. So now the jargon is triple bottom line, or ESG, environmental, social, and governance dimension. So the theory that we have is called the stakeholder theory of the firm, not the shareholder theory of the firm, not the consumer theory of the firm. Everybody here on this map with the firm in the middle is a stakeholder. So on top you have shareholders, at the bottom you have employees, and then you have suppliers, customers, governments, environmental groups, blah, blah, blah. So everybody has some stake in what the firm is doing. And I really want you to position yourselves in the middle. You will be managers. Managers as a group, you are a stakeholder as well. And then you are the only one and unique group that is in touch with all these stakeholders. That is what we call stakeholder management. So it's not an economic theory of the firm. It's not a social theory of the firm or psychology theory of the firm. Now we call this the stakeholder theory of the firm. So switching topic, why do you want to study global business, right? So at this university, the question is, why do you want to study international economic relations, right? The answer is, you don't want to be a loser. And we have one question about the machine, right? Replacing human jobs, right? So the human was replaced by a robot, and this robot is complaining jobs outsourced to a foreign robot. Technology and globalization, okay, two themes hitting us, all right? Be very careful. So you want to study international economic relations at the University of Economics in Katowice, okay, don't forget. On the other hand, why do you want to study international economic relations? You want to make a difference. You can be that little fish jumping from a smaller pond to a bigger pond, okay? And I think my colleagues, Professor Zidoric and Professor Moreau's presentations essentially are telling you the world is your big ocean, all right? Everybody starts from someplace local, all right? But from your local roots, from our local roots, don't forget, there's a bigger and wider and bluer ocean out there. So not only do your studies well here, but follow what they are telling you, engaging a lot of extra curriculum activities, opportunities, so on and so forth. Switching topic a little bit now, some of you might be wondering, globalization. Is there a big debate? Is globalization dead? Do we live in the era of de-globalization? The answer is yes and no. For that reason, I really appreciate the University of Economics in Katowice at this moment in time launching the festivities called Economics Without Borders. Much of the world, much of the stuff you're reading from the media is to talk about economics with borders, with spiky borders, right? Well, this debate is long running. It's nothing new, okay? I'm showing you this cover page from my favorite magazine, The Economist. So that was talking about the future of globalization beached, not going anywhere, right? But you cannot see the little words about the dates, so I'm just showing you. It was an article, cover story published in July 29th of 2006, not very recently. And then the debate could be traced back even further. So someone will say globalization has reached its peak and in retreat. We live in the era of nationalism, forget globalism. But I would argue, is this really a recent debate? And I'm just telling you, no, not really. This debate has been going on for 100 years. Even before the word globalization became a word, there's always this debate. Some people are afraid of doing business not our traditional ways, of dealing with companies, customers, individuals. Nowadays we say stakeholders that we don't know much about. How do we deal with them? Who benefits from trade wars? My answer is not really no one. So if we talk about international trade being win-win, and I bet Adam Smith is someone whose work has been studied, at this university since 1937, when we first founded 85 years ago, right? But Adam Smith wrote the book, The Wealth of Nations, in 1776. Essentially, there are gains from trade. So if there are gains from trade, make no mistake, trade wars and trade sanctions are lose-lose. All right? What about your future, our future, right? The future is very scary. The future is very unpredictable. The future is also historic. Right now, this is a historical moment. We are at a point of what is called historical inflection. We are being hit as a global economy by a public health crisis and a geopolitical crisis and an economic crisis and a social justice crisis, plus a social and environmental climate crisis. So out of these crises, in a plural sense, how do we make sense of the world? It is true that the global economy in the next few years, perhaps next decade or so, going to become less connected and less integrated compared with its peak. All right? Make no mistake what you're getting into. Having said that, as your professor, as your speaker, I don't want to scare you. I want you to understand what you're getting into, but take a look at my last bullet point. Relax a little bit. Okay? All that prediction that globalization is dead. All your jobs will be replaced by machines. Okay, it's not true. All right? Some jobs might be replaced by machines, but not all jobs will be replaced by machines. Just from a pure cost standpoint, globalization is very costly to undo. And Apple, our case study company, did a study. How much money did you pay for your Apple in Poland? I don't know, but I know in the United States, we can get our Apple product, Apple phone, for like, depending on your models, 500 to 800 US dollars, okay? If everything was made in the United States, that Apple would cost the average US customer $2,000 to $3,000 per phone. Which American is so rich to have that much money, right? So the answer is not realistic. So Apple and GM are not going to support a policy of decoupling. We used to say, what is good for General Motors is good for the United States. And now, guess what? General Motors' number one market is China. Number two is the United States. All right? For Apple, number one market is still United States. Number two market is China. So imagine these companies, okay? You can predict their executives are not going to be supporting a policy of decoupling. In 20 years, 30 years from now, when you become these executives, presiding over your companies, managing thousands of employees, I hope you know what to do, what to support, what not to support. All right? So who can we train towards? We already mentioned that. Another very interesting and encouraging piece of news I share with all my students, and I want to share with you. Okay? This is from our friends at the Wall Street Journal. That is, even a less global world presents tremendous career opportunities for people with expertise in global business. And don't just take my words, okay? Take a look at this article, right? Winners in the trade war, tariff and trade experts, all right? So don't be discouraged. What we teach is how to turn threats into opportunities. Are these threats? Yes, they are threats. Can they be turned into opportunities? Yes. So companies are hiring people with global business expertise. You want to train yourself well during your university studies in geopolitics, in tariffs and trade compliance, in supply chain reorganization, in management of complex challenges, such as managing stakeholders, managing CSR, managing climate changes. So the implications for you as students are very clear, all right? These are non-routine subjects. These are subjects whose implementation, whose practice cannot be replaced by machines, at least now, for now. No machines are so smart, and you are so smart. You can do it, okay? This is my last slide. So I want to argue there are lots of dimensions of CSR, but the ultimate corporate social responsibility is to do well your business. In 1970, one Nobel laureate, Milton Friedman, published a very controversial paper. The title is The Business of Business is business. One more time, let me repeat. Milton Friedman, 1970. The business of business is business. Meaning, he was saying, forget about CSR. If the companies are paying taxes, hiring workers, paying wages on time, not polluting beyond the national standards, national environmental requirements, what more should we be asking of these companies? You want them to do more social charity, social donation, blah, 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 and blah. That's all fine if they want to do it, but you cannot require companies to do it. I don't completely support his views, okay? But I want to quote his paper. The business of business is business. If you do your business well, if companies like Apple do their business well, they can help preserve world peace, promoting regional peace. And that is for companies' fundamental corporate responsibilities, promoting global peace and prosperity by linking peoples, companies, and countries together. I deliberately want to emphasize peoples, plural, multiple groups of people, not a bunch of individuals, all right? And we live in this continent precisely as a non-European. Please don't laugh too hard at me. That is how I teach my students at home. I said precisely because of European economic integration. So far we have not had the Third World War yet, right? So because of the companies are integrating together, European companies and European countries and European peoples are coming together. Therefore, so far, we have managed to preserve peace in this continent, which is very unusual in this continent's bloody history of the past several thousand years, right? Therefore, globally speaking, this is a very dangerous point in time with US-China going the way it is. But I think companies like Apple, like General Motors, like other companies, TikTok, for example, you mentioned, right? So these companies are making their contributions. So the message to all of us here is very clear. You can make that difference. You can make that contribution. And being a business major, having a business career, sometimes is being criticized by people. Oh, you just want to make money. You are greedy. Well, be very proud. Yes, we want to make money, but we also want to promote world peace. Are you following? Why do you want to come to this university? All right, thanks very much for your attention.
Professor Mike Peng, thank you very much for your presentation. Now it's time for, say, 2 questions maybe. Do you have any questions? Yes, go ahead. We have some hands up.
Do you think there are jobs that can't be replaced with robots and AI?
Yes. Yes, my son is working to build better robots.
Thank you.
Use microphone, please.
What about AI that can make itself better?
I'll tell you a very bad example of AI, okay? My degree is business strategy. I teach and write books in these areas, right? Strategy is about engagement. It's about getting more customers, right? Okay, just on this trip, okay? When I was looking at tickets at kayak.com, so I was just looking, right? Flying from Dallas-Fort Worth to Katowice. You know, there's no nonstop. So I have to either go through London or Frankfurt or some other place. Every time I looked, so I didn't buy. The next time, the price went up. It was a machine, an artificial intelligent machine that is so stupid, literally driving me away from that first airline. Then I went to a different computer. I went to my wife's computer, a different IP address. Then the computer doesn't know me. So eventually I was still able to get a good deal. But the first 2 airlines lost my business. As a strategist, I would want to fire that director of IT. How stupid that artificial intelligence is. AI now is driven by such stupid low-level tactical people. They have no idea in their so-called smart machine learning, smart machine operations. They have no idea about human psychology, consumer psychology, fundamental business effectiveness, how to engage customers, how not to piss off customers. And they try so hard to piss me and my wife off. I could not believe it until this moment. So great question. I hope you agree. It's a great answer. I hope you will make smarter AI. These machines, if we believe in too much about them, they may one day not only destroy our business, they may destroy our world.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Next question. What are you? Oh, here.
Thank you for such a thought-provoking talk.
Thank you.
You mentioned at the beginning that Apple made $1 trillion in market capitalization. How far do you think Apple is from becoming a monopoly, and what role does CSR play in it? Thank you.
Maybe you allow me to go back. I did not say Apple made $1 trillion. It's hit $1 trillion market capitalization. But it did make loads of money, I did say that. How far away will Apple become a monopoly? The answer is until the US government sues it. 3 days ago, here I was presenting a talk about Google. So the United States government at the moment is suing Google for alleged monopoly. So I personally disagree. The US government is trying very hard to destroy successful US companies. Monopoly is no longer 100% market share. Monopoly is whenever the government doesn't like you. So how far away until the government sues Apple? So that's my answer, seriously. What's your other question? Yeah, if Apple is doing this, it is doing its CSR. It doesn't need to do corporate charity. It doesn't need to do anything else. But if it chooses to do anything else, that's wonderful. See, Apple's core mission is to do this. All right? So no, don't forget the core mission, the ultimate corporate social responsibility. That is my fundamental teaching point of this case study. But we can replace Apple with other companies. Not so dramatic. How much time?
Well, let's say that we have like almost 8 minutes. So we have time for two more questions, maybe.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay, so my question is basically, you mentioned the separation of the countries from the countries' separation that may come, and I wonder at this point if we may consider that economy and politics of the countries like the US, like China, will get only more diverse in the nearest future, or if their businesses will be rather intertwined more with each other, like which course is this economics gonna take?
Okay, great question. Put yourself in the shoes of this guy, Mr. Tim Cook. Your government, it's an international business. Until the last 5 years, 10 years, okay? We tend to believe that paying attention to host country politics. Apple goes to do business in China. Of course, Apple needs to pay attention to Chinese politics, right? As a host country. But now, boy, we have to dramatically expand our horizon, because your home country government behind you may not be always supporting you. Sometimes they want to pull you back. Sometimes they want to stab you in the back. You still have to manage your home country government as a stakeholder. Therefore, there are lots of forces in the United States that want Apple to pull out of China. Then as a manager, as the CEO, do you do it? You could pull out of China, you could destroy about 20% of the value. I don't even have this kind of math to give you how many numbers, how many zeros you will destroy, okay? And then you will piss off customers, you will piss off employees, you will lay off managers, not only in China, but also in lots of other countries, so on and so forth. Is this something you want to do? If you don't want to do this, you want to do your corporate social responsibility, you want to go talk to President Trump or President Biden, okay? Stop being so childish, okay? Look at what we are doing. We are not only, if I have time. President Trump, 2018, was slapping billions of dollars on made in China imports. And he was talking about slapping tariffs on made in China phones, meaning Apple iPhones. And Mr. Tim Cook heard about this, went to talk to his new friend, Donald Trump, in the White House by saying, look, this phone, only 6% of the value is provided by China. The United States is providing more than 6%, like that touch screen, our fingers touch every hour. That touch screen was manufactured in upstate New York in a place called Corning, New York, by a company called Corning. So it was Japan, South Korea, Germany, United States, then China. So these are the 5 top leading contributing countries to that iPhone. So he went to show the data, and President Trump showed that he can be persuaded once you show him good data. Okay, so he's not totally mad or crazy, all right? But that said, this is very hard work because Tim Cook and Trump never met. Tim Cook voted for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton would be his preferred presidential candidate. But too bad, in a democracy, Hillary Clinton lost. So Tim Cook rapidly switched to make friends with Donald Trump. So the question I have for you is, can you do that? Can you do that? You support your candidate, but your candidate lost. Can you be the friend of the next candidate? If you cannot do this job, okay? So test your thickness of the skin, okay? Do you have thick skin? Do you have thick skin? This job is not for everybody. This job, see, you got to make friends with Donald Trump, then he'll listen to you.
I think I would be able to personally, so...
But I will train you to thicken your skin.
Okay.
Global business is not easy. It's a tough job. Someone has to do it. And if you don't do it, no one else does it, they can go to war. Precisely because of the existence of companies like Apple and managers like Tim Cook. It overcoming your personal emotions, your political preferences, your personal preferences, but for the betterment of your company and your stakeholders, and for the betterment of the world, I would argue. That is your ultimate CSR. You will want to do it as a top-notch executive. That's what we are training you at the University of Economics in Katowice. Okay, gradually you will be able to do that. I know it's difficult to imagine you can. Thank you for the question.